Hello dear tea friends from around the world. Welcome to a new class with me, Stéphane Erler. Today we'll do something more classic, some tasting, brewing of tea from my selection, and one that is very much an everyday tea and very high quality tea that is a good fit for everybody, because it's really the way to enter, I think, in this world of tea. So let me say just a few more things about our sponsor. Yes, of course, we need to mention my boutique, tea-masters.com, and also my blog, Tea Masters, on Blogspot. You can check these two places to see information about me, about my teas, my selection, and if you like what I'm doing, you also welcome to place an order. And today we are going to discuss especially one tea that is very interesting this year. It is the first time I selected this Jinxuan. Actually, usually every year I try to select the freshest, the first harvest of Jinxuan. But this year what happened is that the first harvest did not happen. Why? The weather was very dry, and there was also not very much rain. For some time in the winter was cold. That's good. The plants were resting. But then at the time when this tea should have been growing in its leaves, it started to be very hot, but still very dry. And then what happened, of course, without water, there is no life, and the plantations did not produce enough leaves, and also the few leaves that were able to grow, they were taken by this heat, this very early heat, that the freshness just was not there. So the few leaves that got harvested were turned into black tea, not into oolong, because they were not suitable for oolong. For oolong you need enough freshness, fresh conditions, and they were just not there in the first harvest. Total disaster from the point of view of the farmers. That's why I wanted to also help them with the next harvest. That was Jinxing. So I went back, bought this Jinxing in that was harvested on May 1st of this year. Also delayed, but this time there was enough rain for, and the temperature dropped. Actually, it was cooler in May than in April, when Jinxuan should have been done. And then this time we were lucky. At the end of May, on May 27th, the farmer in Alishan was able to harvest this Jinxuan. So it's a second spring harvest, because it's end of May. But from a Chinese calendar, actually we could almost call it already summer tea. Just for commercial reasons, almost nobody calls summer tea. So and since it's still in the month of May, so I stick to spring. But I want to be completely honest, completely transparent. It's a second harvest, and it was picked on the 27th, which means it is very different than from a usual Jinxuan that is harvested in the first harvest in early April, sometimes even late March. This depends. Every year it's a bit different depending on the weather conditions. So this year already May 1st was rather late for this Jinxing. This is almost what we are used to for Shanlinshi. So if you are interested in learning what is a normal Jinxuan, you can go back to last year. I did a similar class with a similar comparison of Jinxing and Jinxuan. But this year, this is going to be a bit different, because this Jinxuan is a second harvest, not the first one. So And what is interesting, of course, with tea is that every 50 days or 55 days you can do a harvest. So how important are these 55 days? What are they changing in this tea? We can see already that the leaves are quite large compared to Jinxuan. Already from when you look at the dry leaves, they look much larger. We can see a bit more buds. The white tips are more present. Usually for the spring you don't see them so well. Here apparently it has quite a lot of tips, so it was also it's a high quality harvest in the second harvest. In terms of freshness, we have this grassy, light, fresh notes. They're definitely present here, and we can see so the leaves are quite large, and because Jinxuan is a new variety that was invented in the early 80s by Dr. Wu Zhengduo, who was director of the Taiwan Research and Extension Station. This is Taiwan's tea research institute. And he came up with Jinxuan in order to have an alternative for oolong that would be give higher yields and therefore be cheaper for consumers. Okay, how much do we use? We put one layer on the bottom of the gaiwan. You can see how much, and we'll let the leaves dance. We start slow and then we go fast and slow. Okay, you see the leaves are still dancing, and since we need to get them to open up, we use the cover and help them to turn a bit more to help them open up more. And here I'm going to preheat also this gaiwan for the Jinxuan so that we can compare the two. We have also some leaves left over. I put them back in my bag and I seal them well. So I try to first minimize the air in the bag. Then I like to do a double triangle, and then I fold once more, put my clip, and it's very tight and no air can enter. And now I can prepare my Jinxuan. So I keep another eye on the Jinxuan. Also one layer at the bottom. Oh, that's enough. A dance. And the cover to help them open up a bit more. Now here it's time I can empty my cups. Let's still check. Perfect, the leaves have opened up, the aromas are there, and we can empty them in 2 steps or 3. In the 2 cups, we go back and forth in order to get a good balance in each. Make sure that it's roughly the same amount in each cup. It's always good to practice, even though you are by yourself. By having several cups, it will cool down a little bit faster, and like this you are practicing your pouring skills. Here the color is still a little bit light, but I have a few leaves that I did not use, so I also put them back. And we go once again. We make sure that the air is minimized. We press on it, and then one triangle this way, one triangle the other way, and we fold once more, and the clip, and now it's very well closed, airtight, with minimum air inside, so it's not going to oxidize much further. And we can go back to our Jinxuan Oolong while the Jinxuan is cooling down. The leaves have opened up and the aromas have come out. We may empty in the cups. The color is much more intense in the Jinxuan, and this is due really already because of the later harvest at a time when it's warmer in the year. So the leaves are more fully developed. The Jinxuan leaves already are larger. We can check. They are really taking several leaves on one stem. The stem has been torn, not cut. So this is already a proof that the tea has been made harvested by hand. And this hand harvest is important because because each cut is oxidizing the tea. So if you cut only very little only at the stem, this is really going to minimize the oxidation and the kind of where it's hurt. And if you had a machine to cut the leaves, of course with a machine you are not so precise, so sometimes you cut the stem, sometimes you might even cut some leaves, and when you cut a leaf, this very large cut is producing a lot of oxidation, and it's going to produce a lot of astringency. So really the advantage of having your tea harvested by hand is that it minimizes this cut, and therefore it minimizes the astringency. This is also what makes oolong tea hand harvested so much smoother and sweeter than machine cut oolong. Very, very sweet and very intense in the aromas. Now what it has lost a little bit of freshness compared to a first harvest, to a normal first harvest. Just this year it was not possible. However, it gained in terms of intensity of aroma. So it is darker. The darkness also indicates that more aromas have come out compared to this color for the Jinxuan. Here we have much lighter fragrances, flowery, more delicate. So but then at the end, and also a nice taste with a little bit more structure. Here the taste is sweet, but you would say a little bit flat. However, the smells are much more intense and appealing, especially if you are not used to artificial flavors. Because one thing we have to mention is this Jinxuan and all my high mountain oolongs, they are not artificially scented. However, there are on the market lots of Jinxuan Oolong, milky oolongs that are scented, artificially scented, with a kind of a fudge or milk scent that is very intense. but that is not natural. This is now a very good example of the natural smell of Jinxuan when it's more intense. So in the second harvest it is more intense than in the first. It loses a bit of freshness, but at the same time also the price is lower. This tea only costs $20 for 150 grams. I don't know in how many ounces that is, but that's a lot of ounces, but a very few amount of dollars. And so for people who start with tea, who start with natural teas that don't need to be sweetened, this is a bit to go back to our health class, this is a very good tea to start with, because thanks to the hand harvest, it becomes more mellow. There's less astringency thanks to the hand harvest. It comes from a high mountain where the nature is much better preserved. There are no industries except tea actually in these places, a little bit of tourism, but in this place actually it's not on the main road that leads to Alishan, so they are preserved from mass tourism. And we are above 1000 meters in altitude, so the air is particularly clean. The sun is bright, and this creates with the mountain soil really a very unique taste that is very pure and very clean also in the taste. And yeah, since it's naturally made without additives, this teaches you what is the real taste of tea without additives, and you are able then to compare Jinxuan and Qingxing from the same farmer actually, also in Juefeng in Alishan. It's only 27 days difference, May 1st, May 27th. That's also interesting to see how the climate or the weather changes between beginning of May and end of May. We can smell that it's getting warmer and warmer. And we can then also better appreciate the differences between Jinxuan Oolong and Jinxuan. Jinxuan is a tea that does not bring too much bitterness with it, so it's a tea that it's easier to brew, because even if you forget it and you overbrew it a little bit, it's not going to become too intense in terms of taste. With Jinxuan Oolong, you have to be a bit more careful. There's a balance that you want to respect, to keep in check, because you want enough aromas out for the nose, but you don't want too much in terms of aftertaste. So this requires a bit more skill to brew well, and also a little bit more experience to really taste the finesse and the lightness of such an oolong. I would almost say that actually many beginners, many people who don't know much about tea, when I brew these two teas, they prefer the cheaper Jinxuan Oolong than the Jinxuan Oolong, even if I brew it for them in a similar matter with in a similar manner with a similar power, but this one is much easier for people who don't have so much experience to appreciate, and therefore I would say it's also a much better gift, and you are saving money because it's also much cheaper than the high mountain from Jinxuan Oolong. So in order also to go one step further, what can we do with Jinxuan in terms of tea pairing? I hope, and I know several of you have bought this tea, and you will find some good advice about Jinxuan. T. Parker in his book mentions, for instance, smoked ham. He also mentions Gruyere, which is a kind of Emmental, this cheese that has these bubbles inside, and a third dish that is a good pairing with Jinxuan are grilled mushrooms. Mushrooms on a grill can also go very well with Jinxuan. So this is to go one step further if you want to mix tea with your meal. This is not, you can do this for health reasons, like I explained in my class from 2 weeks ago, but you can also do it strictly out of taste reasons, to see how well these two marry each other and how they react with each other. Smoked ham, Gruyere, or grilled mushrooms. Let me enjoy some more. Very refined, longer taste, but this one still a lot of intensity also. Still be careful to you don't need to use much more. The first brew needs to be long in order to open the leaves, but once the leaves are open, you can also brew them a bit shorter, depending on how you like it. So there's a lot of freedom in tea. These classes are not there to teach you a definite way to do it, but to give you advice, and I hope that you find it useful. If you do, please give me a like on this video. If you have questions, leave me a comment, subscribe to the channel, and for next week we are going to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival, and I will think of something. We'll do maybe a class on this subject again. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next week again. Bye bye!